People who are calling for a ceasefire now do not understand Hamas. That is not possible.
Our old friend Hillary Clinton was back beating the war drums during a panel at a Baker Institute event. Now here she is explaining why she thinks it's dumb to call for a halt to the absolutely brutal military operations Israel has been carrying out in the Gaza Strip.
It would be such a gift to Hamas because they would spend whatever time there was a ceasefire in effect rebuilding their armaments, creating stronger positions to be able to fend off an eventual assault by the Israelis.
We can't have a ceasefire, which, by the way, the airstrikes, the attacks on the Gaza Strip have overwhelmingly impacted Palestinian civilians. There are a little over a dozen Hamas militants that have been killed as a result of the IDF's actions in the Gaza Strip. But with the death toll reaching roughly 8,000 people, you do the math and ask yourself whether what Israel is carrying out is strategic, smart, actually leads to peace in the long run. But Cenk, Hamas, if we do a ceasefire, Hamas will build their armaments against Israel, which is obviously well-trained. They have a well-trained military, okay? They have weapons given to them by the United States government. They've got the Iron Dome. I mean, I'm so sick of people trotting out these weak ass arguments, pretending as if we're talking about two equal sides here, as if Hamas has the kind of international support the Israeli military has, as if Hamas, which is currently in a region of the world that is currently being leveled as we speak, has the same military capability or could build even close to a similar military capability that the Israeli government has. Now, I have no problem with Israel going after Hamas, no problem at all. After what they did on October 7th, I do not begrudge the Israeli people or the Israeli government for wanting to go after Hamas. But if you are believing that they are just going after Hamas and they are doing everything they can to keep the innocent Palestinian civilians safe, I got a bridge to sell you. You're a sucker. It is a lie. It is very clear to me, based on the footage we've seen, based on the number of civilian deaths, they don't give a damn about civilian lives. And not only is it immoral, and not only does it break international laws, committing war crimes, but in the long run, what it does is it keeps Israeli civilians less safe because the Arab world is in a rage. This war could expand to other countries. And what do you think happens to civilians whose entire families are wiped out by these airstrikes and these military raids? You think that they just chill after that and they're okay with it? Or could it be that this is what leads to the extremism that is unfortunately directed toward innocent Israeli civilians? This is so dumb, so just lacking in any strategy. It's just absolute brutality toward the Palestinian people. And of course, Hillary Clinton signs off on it and gives us a BS excuse for why she supports everything that the Israeli government is currently doing.
When I see Hillary Clinton now, I just see like a corporate robot.
Just go away.
She just goes out there and repeats, well, this is going to make more money for my different donors that I have had in my life. The Clintons went into office broke. They came out with $150 million. And that was pretty convenient. By the way, how did they do that? Among the different ways that they did that, Hillary Clinton went and gave speeches at the largest banks in the country and told them, oh, I love you guys. You guys are gonna be in charge of my policy if I win. And they gave her millions and millions of dollars. So she's profited off the corruption her whole life. And now she's doing more of that corruption. Now, if she said, look, Israel has a right to do special forces and counterstrike against Hamas, nobody would argue with that. In fact, Israel has been doing special forces strikes inside Gaza right now. And guess what? Just like I told you guys, we said a constructive solution. Not that Israel has to do nothing, okay? The special forces have been working. They bragged today about how they killed a bunch of Hamas guys that came out of a tunnel because they sent in special forces and they rescued a hostage. That is actually effective, right? What is not effective is the indiscriminate bombings and the collective punishment and cutting off the water, the energy, the power, the electricity to Palestinians and having thousands and thousands of innocent civilians die, and the onslaught that is about to come with the ground invasion. But Hillary Clinton doesn't care about any of that. I mean, look, there's two options for why she says things like this. One is she doesn't care about anybody's lives. It's like she's old friends, to groupthink, like, yeah, rah, military industrial complex. Everybody in Washington is going to get new mansions. Yes. Maybe the Clinton fortune can go up to $300 million.
No, Cenk. I think what it is she looks at Netanyahu and she sees herself, right? I mean, who built up Hamas? Who funded Hamas?
Yeah.
Who built up the Taliban in Afghanistan? Okay, who gave them the weapons? Who supported them to fight the Soviets? The United States did. And then we turned around and fought the Taliban, right? Engaged in a war in Afghanistan to fight them after we're the ones who empowered them. So Hillary Clinton turns around, she looks at Bibi Netanyahu and says, I see myself. I see myself. So what choice do I have but to support what he's doing? Similar to what we did in Afghanistan with the Taliban.
So, right, or she's an idiot, but either way, it's not helpful. So why do I say maybe she's just an idiot? She's the moron who voted for the Iraq war because she thought that would be good politics. Oh, we're gonna kill a couple 100,000 innocent civilians and a bunch of our service members, and we're gonna spend billions of dollars. Oh, right, that goes to my donors, forgot to mention that part. We're gonna do all of that, and we're gonna accomplish nothing in Iraq. You think, look, maybe the average layman in America didn't know that Iraq didn't attack us, but Hillary Clinton knew definitively that Iraq did not attack us. But she voted to invade Iraq anyway, because she's always wrong. She always supports whatever the donors tell her to do. If the oil companies and the defense contractors order the corporate robot to go out there and tell you that war is awesome, whenever America does it, Israel does it, then that's what the corporate robot is gonna say. And all the other corporate robots in mainstream media are gonna say, Hillary, you must vote for Hillary Clinton, you cannot vote for Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is dangerous. This maniac that starts war after war after war, all on behalf of her donors. She's the only legitimate candidate. Yeah. Gee, I wonder why everyone in America lost faith in mainstream media.
Why don't we see what else this monster had to say about the Palestinian people and getting humanitarian aid to them? Apparently, she thinks it's way too complicated.
Should more aid be getting in, and should fuel be allowed?
Well, I think that this is one of those dilemmas that is very difficult to have a yes or no answer. I do think it's important at some point to try to get fuel into the hospitals. I mean, Israel is understandably worried about the fuel being diverted to Hamas, and that's a totally legitimate worry. But the hospitals will shut down, their generators will shut down without fuel. I think getting the aid in is very complicated. Getting the aid where the aid needs to go is similarly complicated. But we have to be caught trying, and the Israelis should be wanting for us to figure out how to get aid in that will deal with these very serious humanitarian challenges.
So those hospitals that are unable to function properly due to the lack of fuel, I mean, you need the fuel in order to operate the machines. Keep in mind that some of the hospitals currently have premature babies in the NICU. Now, the premature babies weren't born prematurely. Many of them were literally cut out of the stomachs of their dead mothers who died as a result of the Israeli airstrikes. Just something to keep in mind as we talk about the complicated nature of getting humanitarian aid to innocent civilians who are now dealing with the Israeli government and the IDF raining terror on them. Now, even her panelist, Jim Baker, had a little more moral clarity than Hillary Clinton had in response to the question about humanitarian aid. Let's watch.
One overreaction in my view is to shut off fuel and electricity and food and medicines to a civilian population.
So you disagree with Israel's decision to do that?
No, I disagree with embargoing food and fuel. And I also disagree with not letting aid trucks get through the Rafah crossing and other, because there are a lot of innocent civilians who are dying. A lot of innocent civilians died. A lot of innocent civilians died when Hamas went in brutally and murdered 1,400 Israelis. But that kind of tit for tat is only going to lead to a broader war.
So Cenk, before I go to you, I just want to give you a sense of what's happening with the humanitarian aid. Israel has allowed only a small trickle of aid to enter. On Sunday, 33 trucks of aid entered the only border crossing from Egypt, a spokesperson at the Rafah crossing said. But humanitarian workers said the assistance still fell desperately short of needs after thousands of people broke into warehouses to take flour and basic hygiene products. They're experiencing a level of desperation that is just unimaginable. And this is because of the block of humanitarian aid entering the Gaza Strip. And whatever does enter is clearly not enough, Cenk.
Yeah, should humanitarian aid enter is not a complicated question. And she said there is no yes or no answer. Incorrect. There is a yes or no answer. Yes, humanitarian aid should enter. So here, I'll give you one needless example, but Turkey was bombing northern Syria. Our US Kurdish allies in the region created a humanitarian problem. If you had said to me, hey, should we allow humanitarian aid into northern Syria where the Kurds are being bombed? My answer would have been an unequivocal yes. Yes, we should allow for humanitarian aid there. Well, what if they use some of the water pipes for crude missiles? Okay, what's the alternative? Let all the Kurds die there? No, it's not complicated, not at all. What if they use the fuel for some attacks against Turkish citizens or other citizens? Oh, okay, what if they use the fuel to save the babies in their hospitals? So no, these are very, very poor excuses for collective punishment and massive civilian casualties. So, but Hillary Clinton and the people in Washington generally don't care about Palestinians at all. They don't think they're human. They have no empathy for them. None, zero. They don't treat, like, is an Israeli life and a Palestinian life the same to someone like Hillary Clinton? Not even close. She couldn't care about that Palestinian's life at all. She's never shown any interest in Palestinian lives. Now, the final irony is, if you don't know who Jim Baker is, he was the top advisor to Ronald Reagan, okay? And he was served in a number of roles, including chief of staff. Then he helped George W. Bush steal the 2000 election. This guy is very significant, almost a legendary, not almost, a legendary right winger, okay? The right wing is going to flank the left wing on the anti-war position. The Republicans are going to take the anti-war position from the Democrats because the Democratic leadership, they're all morons and they're incredibly callous and feeding at the trough of defense contractors. There's blood spilling out from your lips, okay? So now Republicans are at least pretending to be anti-war, and there's Jim Baker, one of the legends of the right wing, being so much more humanitarian than Hillary Clinton. And saying, I mean, look, aren't we going to care about the Palestinian lives at all? And by the way, the American people are more on Baker's side than Hillary Clinton's side. But the morons who run the Democratic Party are like, let's take the more unpopular position again. Because you know what? Our military contractor donors love war, so let's pretend Palestinians aren't human beings. They have destroyed the party of FDR.
1000%.
I mean, this used to be a beautiful progressive party that stood for the average man. Does it look like any of their leaders today stand for the average person or care about life at all?
Pro-corporate, pro-war. I look at the Democratic Party and I feel overwhelming disgust.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.